Welcome to the A Players Club YouTube page, where you are about to see an inside scoop of the top 1% of entrepreneurs in our industry. The format of this YouTube channel is very simple. We've held over 25 masterminds now all across the world with some of the highest level entrepreneurs in the game, and we've compiled a series of videos from our private roundtable masterminds with members doing over 100k a month, and public masterminds where we've brought specialists to speak on certain industry topics. My name is James Galligan and I am the founder of A Players, and we have decided to give you exclusive access to the live recordings of these masterminds in hope that every single one of you watching these will easily get past $1 million a year. And for those who do, you are very welcome to come work with us at A Players Club by clicking the link below. But for now, like, comment and subscribe, and we hope you enjoy the video. Peace.
All right, cool. So we'll do a little quick background. Like James said, I don't want to hit the background stuff too hard, but I guess it's worth it to give you some context if you don't know who I am. So this was me on the left with a little paper hat on that says need a wife. If you can't see that, that still remains. Achieved all my goals apart from that one so far. But obviously, as you can see, I was like, so as a restaurant manager, I also kind of grew to hate customers at a certain point. So I just started working as a head chef in the kitchen instead as well. That was my life for like, I think about 6 years or so. Then I started an agency, keep pressing the back button. Then I started an agency, I'd done okay with it. I kind of lucked myself into a few clients, didn't really know what I was doing whatsoever. The agency crumbled, as you can imagine. Saw a post on Iman's story, hiring SDRs, had no idea what an SDR even is, but it's Iman, so I applied. The fact that I kind of had a bit of industry knowledge on agencies allowed me to land into that role. Paul Daly, which we'll touch on a few lessons from him, was the guy running the group interview, and that was a humbling experience, to say the least. But then, as James said, started as an SDR, became a closer in roughly 2 months. I remember that caused a bit of turbulence as well. There was some people that definitely were like more in the waiting line than me who had been there longer. After that, became a coach, then became the sales manager, then launched his 18K offer. At the time, it was called 8-Figure License. It's now known as consulting.com. Then just went off and done my own thing. So since then, I've ran with quite a few large names in the space, collected a lot of money, and we will go through some of the lessons for this. So if you're running a sales team, you're going to get a lot of value from this. If you're not, you can go to sleep. So things that we will cover today: systems that make me money. Also, I'm joking. Don't go to sleep. All right, take the gold from the dirt or whatever. Right. So what we're going to cover today: systems that make me money, things that I've used to scale some of the biggest names in the space, my hiring process, some dark art shit, culture for sales teams, something that will rewire you as a leader. If anyone's seen the YouTube video, I'd done a similar speech in Stockholm, but I just injected some steroids into this one, so it's better now. So lucky you guys. So I also have a weird thing with AI. It's very addictive, right? That's all I do in my time. I'm useless. I don't actually do team meetings or anything. I just build weird images of me in AI. So ZenBlue is one of the things that I use to make me a lot of money. Not sponsored, actually am, but it is I was one of the early dudes. I remember having a call with Rob, who's like the actual founder, who's a little bit more behind the scenes now. Now it's more like Sam Queen who handles it, but early adopter of it. And when I was scaling a marketing agency, they're doing about 30K a month, was stuck at that for a really long time. In just under 2 months, brought them to 131K. I got like a little nice sit down interview with the guy and stuff. ZenBlue was a huge part of that, to be honest with you. If you don't know what it is, iMessage software, so obviously you get blue messages. You can use FaceTime audio, which is, I don't actually know like the law. I'm assuming laws are okay on it, but it feels a little illegal because like you're sat there, you just sign up, you opt in, you get a FaceTime audio, you're like, is this my grandma? Like, who's calling right now? You answer, and it's like, hey, it's Scott here. Like, I'm gonna sell you, bitch, right? So a little bit weird, but it works so repulsively well. You can also play around and get really creative with it. So like 11 Labs allows you to use like an AI voice note of it, so you could have the founder and then like placeholders of like, the customer's name. And with that, 11 Labs will plug it in basically. So that's like one of the first things that I do. And then basically I do this on a flywheel. So what that looks like is anyone that no-shows, anyone that cancels, they get put automatically into like a sequence, and from that sequence, they get re-invited back into a webinar, and then from that webinar, it's like an evergreen, so it's just like this constant flywheel. There's so much money inside of people's CRM, like constantly, that never gets tapped on. Like a lead comes in, we prioritize the lead for a few days, then it kind of gets forgotten about again. So that's like how I create a flywheel effect with ZenBlue. Uni Chat is by far and away one of the most powerful tools that I use without a shadow of a doubt, right? So it's a game changer, kind of taps into the point I was just making. in terms of reactivation, right? Like everyone is sat on so much money. And basically with this, you can just do a mass CRM reactivation via WhatsApp. Now, if you go to yourbusinessnumber.com, you can buy like a US number, plug it into your Meta account, and then basically from this, obviously voice messages, video messages, personalized like promotions, the whole flywheel effect. This is the software that Iman uses on his events to this day. And it's just stupidly powerful. So you can blast like 30,000 leads in one hit. And it's like WhatsApp messages. Again, WhatsApp is obviously a bit more of like a personal place where you're kind of messaging them from. Like it's more of a friends and family thing. It's now becoming more business focused, but it does just tend to lead to very good like responses and things because you can do like good videos. So like I done like a Black Friday promotion. We ran no ads for it. We didn't have like any, special YouTube pushes, like nothing. It was literally just reactivation for Black Friday with a promotional package. Reply to this if you want to, be involved. And then essentially you get all of your sales team in there. So you just say like, hey, my sales team is on standby to deal with any questions that you have. Someone replies, you add like all of the sales team as users, they can get back to them. And it is just a golden way to make a crap ton of money. Next. Oh yeah, I forgot I added this in. I don't have notes on this. So here is the thing. When I finish my speech, if you want access to the entire Miro board of how I'm going to be running like a 5-day challenge, you have to come and give me a shoulder massage or something. So I'll give you a few like screens of what it is and kind of walk you through a high level, but there's all of the automations plugged into there. There's all of like the email flows that we're going to be using, like everything that we're going to be doing. So I'm running a 5-day challenge for like a trading offer. There is a guy who I will not name drop, but he's involved in A players like very heavily, who basically has a lot of proximity with Iman essentially still. So a lot of this is from like kind of the live things that they're doing with Iman as well. So the first thing that they do is a one-on-one lead support before and during the challenge. So that's basically your setters. And you give like this concierge kind of relationship angle, right? So it's very much just like, hey, as you go through the challenge, I have been like, assigned to you as your dedicated, manager to make sure that you get everything that you need, the resources, the links, yada, yada, all of that stuff. So you start building a relationship very early. As you can imagine, it increases show up rate a lot, but we found that it increases conversion rate like so much because they feel like they are actually cared for, right? Like one of the biggest things that people need is to actually feel like they're given a shit about, right? So that's like the first thing we have on there. You have call communication. So we do it from the brand face, so the offer owner. So email 1 is like hyping up the opportunity and the team member, right? So whenever they book in, so important. It's called an authority handoff. Really important that you actually hand off through custom fields who they're going to be speaking to so that they already start to trust that person that they're going to jump on a call with. Then you do email 2 as a testimonial. Then email 3 is like huge excitement, authority, just hyping them up, right? Then you also double it up with like one specifically from the closer, right? So call confirmed and intro to them, chat tomorrow, all set. And then they get an email plus a WhatsApp with like, hey, I'm jumping on now, see you in 5 minutes, with the link directly. It's exactly what like Charlie was saying there, where it's like, you just send them a link and they're gonna jump on, right? If the show rate would have been, let's say 60%, if you drop a link 5 minutes before they need to jump on, the show rate's gonna be 70, 80%, okay? After that, you've got like call cancel and call no show, pretty obvious ones there. Tech stack, so Tallyform, it's kind of cheaper than Typeform. It's also good for routing. Cal.com is what I tend to lean towards now because if you've got like parameters in the URL, you can just do a one-click book, so it's less friction, has a really good API. You can also auto-cancel calls that have like the fake emails and the names and the stuff that just fills up calendar space. Close, I always say close, like if you're using like GHL and these kind of things. It depends on the size of your sales team. GHL is a bit of like a jack of all trades, right? If you're just doing it for like sales team optimization conversion, like close is always the most elite for it. Uni Chat, like I talked about, you can use Super Chat as well. I personally lean towards Uni Chat. This is something I forgot to say. The setup in it is all in like Portuguese, kind of a pain in the ass. I have no idea how to speak Portuguese, but once you're through it, you can translate it to English, so it's good. Then we have like a custom built reminder engine. Again, that's in the workflow, not my area. I have like a really amazing systems guy, but you can use no code tools and have like this really amazing kind of custom flow as well. Close the checklist, very simple stuff. We already know that. This is the call outcomes that we run during the events. Okay, so you have old lead, which is like, so like for example, with this 5-day challenge, they were on Zoho. I don't know if anyone knows what Zoho. I didn't even know Zoho. Like it's like a CRM. I was like, what on earth is this, right? It was the worst CRM I've ever laid my eyes on. So we shifted them over to Close, but obviously we imported all the leads from Zoho. So we had old leads so that we could then like reactivate them and push them towards tickets, ticket purchase, lead in, no book, right? So people that get onto the funnel do a partial submit, don't book a call. Then all of the things here. You can take a picture of this or whatever's going to be best, right? I'm not going to read for every opportunity stage, but that is how that we have like hyper kind of awareness to the stages of where a lead is at as they're going through this process. SDR role, we kind of touched on those already. That's what that's what the whole thing looks like. Again, if I feel generous, then yeah, just let me know. If this is something that's going to be very useful for whatever type of business you're in, and I'm happy to share the love. But as you can see, we have kind of all of like, the decisions that are required, all the different flows that happen, the stuff that goes into Slack. You have all of the different like zaps and make automations and everything as well. Over there is like the email kind of stuff that we have. So it's a pretty decently like high level, in-depth kind of walkthrough of how we run these events essentially. Next up, wow. Dude looks extra golden on this one. So that is the AI follow-up method that I always do on my teams. We haven't done it too heavily with A players because it's a little off-brand, to be honest, for us. But on like a B2C type of business or even B2B with the right angles, so good, so powerful. It's just a pattern interrupt, right? If you look at like the typical day-to-day, when a sales rep sends me a Mr. Bean meme, right, of him sat in the field or whatever, looking at his watch, like trying to follow up, I'm like, are we in like 2020? Like I don't want to buy from you, right? Whereas something like this, I'm going to buy from that guy because I'm like, this person took, and it doesn't take that long. I'll give you the prompt in a second, but this person took that one tiny little extra attention to detail that makes all the difference. And I think that's the way that the sales space is changing is like, there's a tax offer that I'm running, which is like a 50K package. Like we're really shifting over to kind of the offer doc approach for it and things as well, right? Because the landscape is changing and you have to move with the landscape, right? So something like this is just a really strong pattern interrupt. The way that I get my team to do it, and I think everything should be done just through accountability mechanisms and making it very easy and simple. So they all have it blocked off in their calendar on a Saturday. And I tell them like, wake up. If you're in the UK, don't look at the sun because there is none, but anywhere else in the world, go look at the sun, have a coffee, and just literally use this prompt and just churn out a bunch of these AI follow-ups. And it takes like a couple hours and you're gonna make a shit ton of money from it. So the model of this, there's two ways you can do it. First one is basically contextual to the person's goals. So let's say, I had an example, right? So one was like a guy that said his goal was a $1 million trust fund. So I had a photo of the offer owner holding a briefcase and it said $1 million trust fund on it. So very contextual, like it lands into like the emotions of what they were looking at it for in the first place. The other one, which this is not advice because I don't know how compliant it is, it's probably against the law, but like take a screenshot of the prospect on Fathom and then have them with the offer owner, like shaking hands or whatever, or like welcome him into like the trading kingdom or whatever. I think that's probably illegal in a weird way because they're like, yo, this person's just like AI'd my identity, but it did work exceptionally well, like crazily well. This is the prompt. By the way, I am not a prompter, so if you look at that and you like kind of know about AI prompts, you're like, yo, did a fucking monkey write this? But it works. It does good enough. Like it got those things. So feel free to take a photo of that if it's going to be beneficial. Sorry, James, for damaging brand reputation right now with this speech. All right, cool. If you missed that, I'm sorry. Here is me levitating. Rapid fire. Rapid fire. So, and again, I'm more than happy to walk anyone through like these more in depth and what these like look like tangibly. We have speed to lead in a custom dashboard, Slack lead automations, then we have some weird stuff. So I'll link these, right? Speed to lead is the thing that is talked about all the time and no one actually does. And everyone thinks that they do it, but they do not do it, right? So speed to lead is really important that you actually track how accurate your speed to lead is and how good it really is, right? Because there might be speed to lead on the surface, but then like there's a lot that's like really like bad behind the scenes, okay? So obviously we already know, I think it's like under 60 seconds is like a 371x increase or something crazy, whatever that is. So that should be your biggest needle moving focus. The way that I track it as a manager is I don't really want to be in our custom sales dashboard like over and over, like refreshing, like checking every lead. So I set up an automation which is in Slack. Most people probably do this to a degree, which is like the lead comes through and then a sales rep ticks it green. I think it's a little basic. So what I have is basically like and again, not my area of expertise, is my systems dude, but whatever the activity was that sales rep does, then posts into the thread of the Slack like notification itself. So I can now see at a high level, one, the lead actually got hit, but then I see how it got hit. Like I see the communication, I see that a call was made, or I see that a text was sent to it. Really, really easy for like high level overview visibility to just make sure that like everyone's on top of things. Then we have the weird shit, which is what I always do. So I'm gonna jump down here. Monday priming, right? So this is, you probably can't read it. It says Scott's Monday morning manifestation. Strap in for a killer week, ladies and gents. Take the time to pause for a second. Namaste. And I have some weird holographic man that's levitating. I have a pretty good voice to kind of prime the team for like manifestation. Like, hey guys, right? Everyone plant your feet for a second, right? All of this bullshit. It works very well. Right, and if we talk about it like company vision and anchoring yourself to something like greater than just yourself, right? Understanding impact, it is so important in a sales team. And this allows you to do it in a really like interesting, calculated, pattern interrupt type of way. It's like everyone knows on Monday, you're gonna take 3 to 5 minutes of your day to anchor yourself to what is important, right? Like, why are you doing this? Who are the human beings that are on your calendar that you're going to speak to today, not the leads that are on your calendar or whatever, and actually just kind of taking the moment to appreciate, because this is true, like we're all sat at home making money, life could be worse, right? So it's like just anchoring to the reality of like, let's keep this going, like everything is great. Then we have a better everyday post. There's 2 variations that I have of this. Am I good for time? Yeah. Oh, man. Cool. So 2 things, and it depends on the dynamic of your team. Better every day, the screenshot I have there is from a football offer that I'm running, right? So that one's like, you can see supplement stacks there, like, you know, trainings that they're done, all of that stuff. The premise of this is like every day you do something as a post of what you've done that day to get better. It might be journaling, it might be meditating, it might be skydiving, it might be whatever, the gym, right? The other one that we done, which was actually really effective, I done it on an agency, was the morning evening channel. So this was when you start your day, you say good morning, right? And then you have what I would call already abundant, which is like something that you are appreciative on the day. So you anchor yourself to like a good gratitude kind of thing out of the gate. And then evening is when you're kind of beginning like your evening shift. You say good evening, and then you basically tag someone on the team that you want to show appreciation for. The reason I found this worked so well is because sales teams, I can speak on behalf of myself, they tend to be like egotistical, isolated people. Right, they're selfish basically, right? With this, I found that like the sales team started to kind of like integrate with other departments, because all of a sudden like they would be shouting out a customer support person because they'd actually helped them. And then all of a sudden like the dynamic of the team was increasing so much. And then when I do like an end of month call with the entire company, like the vibe of it was just so much stronger. So this was a really good thing that we've done as well. This one's a wormhole. So hiring. This is specifically for sales reps. I probably wouldn't recommend this for anything else. I think the sales space is kind of like dog eats dog type of world. So I do a pretty crazy group interview process. I learned this from Paul Daly, from the Iman days, all of that good stuff. So I needed this. 100 milligrams of caffeine, bro. I'm already like 2K deep. So the first thing that we do on Calendly, there is a setting to show how many slots are available. So let's say you have 50 slots for a group interview. It creates a certain feeling inside of them to know 28 out of 50 slots have already been taken. Because now they've booked in for the interview and they think, okay, shit, there's 27 other people that I'm competing with. They now take the interview a hell of a lot more seriously. Then the second, so that's like before the interview even happens. When it actually comes to interview day, we have the waiting room, right? So the waiting room, what I mean with this is you have to be hyper aware, and James does this very, very well. High standard. Like, I don't know anyone that has as high of a standard as James does. And you guys probably have seen and felt that in terms of how quickly you get the content, right, uploaded compared to other events that you go to, and it's like 7 weeks later and they finally post the photos and you're like, dude, I don't even look like that anymore. I've got gray hair now, right? So like he has such a high standard, and that's really important, right? And if you're gonna hire someone, they should be coming in on time. And it sounds basic, but most people don't. Like, they show up like fucking 2 minutes late. It's like, if they're showing up 2 minutes late as a first impression, 3 months down the road, they're gonna be such a red flag. So we pay a lot of attention to who was early, but more importantly, who was late. You can give them 1 minute if you want. James doesn't. I personally am like 1 minute, I'll let it slide. Maybe they just wrapped up a call, whatever. But for me, so I do 2 minutes, right? Anyone that was 2 minutes late, we let everyone in, but then those people who were late, we do like a public announcement of like, unfortunately, we have a very high, well, not unfortunately, but we have a very high standard here. You, and you were late. We have way too high of a standard for this. Feel free to apply again, but you're out. We do that because it really anchors like the kind of standard that we're gonna hold on this as a result, right? The next thing that we do is a massive pattern interrupt. And again, right, like as you can see, it says Hunger Games. Like, don't come up to me and say like, Scott, like you're really an unethical person. I'm aware, okay? It's okay. I can take that badge of honor, right? So the cameras off is basically everyone on leadership will do an introduction of who they are, background of them, all of that stuff. And then the first thing that we do is like, okay, so all of the leaders on this team meeting right now or on this interview, we're gonna turn our cameras off. We're gonna start a timer for 5 minutes. You guys talk amongst yourselves. But at the end, we're going to kick X number of people off. Kind of depends on how many people are in here. It's kind of funny because it just creates like anarchy. It just like everyone starts scrambling. All right, so you get the person, this is always the one you got to watch as like wild card. You get the person that's like Mr. Frame Grab, right? Mr. or Mrs. Frame Grab. But they're like try and take control. Like, okay, guys, this is how we're going to do it. That person probably might have a bit too much of an ego where they're going to be a pain in the ass and they're going to be telling you how to run the company, which is my biggest pet peeve with sales reps. So I'm normally keeping an eye out for that person, or if you just know, like, yeah, that's not a good fit, you're going to kick them off for sure. The other ones that you want to pay attention to is obviously the ones who give really kind of weak intros to who they are or anything like that, and then especially the last ones to talk. Because there is a degree when it comes as a sales rep where, like, you got to put your foot forward. You got to be willing to kind of come out of your shell. If you're one of the last people to speak, you're probably going to get decimated on the team, okay? So we basically bring them in, and get rid of like whoever was not like a fit in that place. And then what we do then is like the wild card question. So whoever you feel like, whether it was that first person that talked or just someone in general that you are not sure about, you're like, maybe this person's amazing, but I can't quite tell yet. We do the wild card question. So the wild card question is making them make a decision on who they think is the weakest person on the call right now. Again, it's like this very strange dynamic that happens, right? So if I was like, let's say James was like interviewing on here, I'd be like, James, like, who do you think is the weakest person on this call right now? And whoever he says, we just kick them off, right? And again, it's like this strange pattern interrupt, but I promise you, and I forgot to say this, there is so many people that have messaged me after one of these that weren't successful, but they were just like, whenever you are hiring for any of your other teams, like, please invite me. Like, I want to be a part of this standard so badly. Right, so it does create like it's like tense. You see everyone like tight on there, and they're red-chested, and it's pretty brutal. But it does forge warriors, and I kind of didn't talk about that. That's how I should have started this phase. But it's like this dictates the trajectory that they come into the role on. It's like if you set this hard of an expectation right from the get-go, they're going to come into this offer just ramped up and like ready to kill. Okay.
The hiring,
yeah.
Like when we ask them to kick somebody else out, it shows that they can make hard decisions, which is like sales reps need to do every single day.
Yep.
And they will rarely get rid of the best person. Like we've seen every time, they do actually just get rid of the person that like we probably would get rid of as well. It's just training that hard decision making into your team, setting that standard from the get go is very good.
100%. Yeah, and like I don't think I've ever had it, but if I had someone that's like you do see them hesitate, but if you get them like where they really just will not make a decision, it means that they're the weakest one. Yeah. Like, it's harsh, but it's how it is. So after that, and I'll try and bang through this now, again, I can go more in depth on this in a breakout room if we have one or questions or whatever it is, or privately, but we then do a skill test. So the one that I always like to do is just like pull up a clip of me, like objection handling someone and like, going crazy with it. And it's like two different things that I'm looking for. If I'm hiring for a setter compared to a closer, it's night and day difference in what I'm looking for, even though it's like still in sales. All I'm looking for with the setter is kind of curiosity and awareness. That's really it. It's like, are they hyper aware and like, oh, I wonder why you done that, or you said this thing here, it was really interesting. Any of these things, that's like what James said, curiosity. It's like, cool, I can train that person into a machine, because a lot of setter is just volume based anyway. Closer, it's much more like, do they actually understand embedded commands? Do they actually understand the methodology that I'm using? Like more of these things are a little bit more advanced, so I know they can come in the right way. After that, it then goes into more standard kind of hiring process. So we'll do breakout rooms, one-on-one, kind of 5-minute little sessions, a bit more chill, like, hey, like I know that was brutal, let's just talk, down to earth now, kind of like, what are your goals, all of these things. After that, you can then normally set up like interviews like separately for any of the strong candidates that you had. So, refunds. I'll give you a full refund prevention SOP that I have made. This it was 18, so it was like 17, 18%. There was a team that I took over, had really high churn, really, really badly, right? It was a very fear-based ICP that we had. I took them from 18%, 17, 18% down to 0.8%. It has now stayed around that. It's always under 1%. Most of refunds really come from buyer's remorse. Now, the argument obviously as well, you should have very dialed in fulfillment. Everyone knows that. This is more of the sales angle of it though. Most of it comes because we really didn't get them to anchor the decision in the right way, right? And kind of like what was just being said a second ago, it's like most people will just drop the Stripe link as soon as they're told like, okay, I want to join. It's actually the worst thing that you can do. Like it really is. Like you need them to reaffirm back why they made that decision. So like the first line of the refund prevention, and it's like 12 steps, I'll run you guys through it, like you can have the document after, is literally just like, hey, I know that you're gonna fucking crush it inside of this, and I'm glad to have you inside, but I wanna hear from you first, why did you choose to make this decision today? So you get them to re-anchor it, and they tell you specifically why they made the decision, and then they're no longer like tense, because I see it all the time is like, they say yes, we drop them a Stripe link, now they've got a payment page on their desktop that says 10K, and now they're thinking, oh my God, 10K is gonna leave my bank account, what if my mum gets ill? They start like spiraling. It's like, if you get them to just say why they made this decision, it's one of the most important things. The last thing I'll just say on this, again, you'll have the full document to this. It has loads of like optional steps in the middle, which are super powerful dependent on the person. But the mandatory thing that we do, which is really the key on how we actually, reduce the refund specifically, is we create an anchor word, right? So, and you can do this for B2B, it's just done in a slightly different way. So for B2C, it's very emotionally driven, right? So B2C would be, hey, this last thing just before we jump off, so you've like handled everything. It's like, hey, just before we jump off, this is one of my favorite parts about what we do. Even with the level of dedication that you have shown to us today, there's gonna be days that come up where you just feel uncertain. It's part of the journey. I want to be able to bring you back to that version that you decided to become today. So what is one word that I could text you that would instantly ground you back to the version that you decided to become today? And it's wild. That's the dark art shit I was talking about. Like they always look off like philosophically like, oh my God. And then they say some crazy word like legacy or grounded or whatever it is. And then you anchor that and you say, why did you choose that word? And then they say whatever, right? Like I'm doing this for my family and blah, blah, all of this shit. Again, I don't know how ethical this is, but whatever, right? Sales is not ethical, but like if you know the results they're gonna get from it is ethical, then it's good. You then the next day send them a text that says, well done on making that decision yesterday. The future version of you is already thanking you. Always remember, and then you insert the grounding word that they chose. That one thing like mitigated refunds so violently hard. So that is the QR code. I hope it works because I had to pay for the service this time or some shit. I ran out of my free sign-ups, so this cost me $50.
Oh, your code.
Yeah.
That's a rookie shit.
That's rookie with a cookie. I was looking at it like $50, so who am I, man? I'm gonna fucking throw that shit away.
That's just the wrong mind.
That's why I live life in the red. All right, did it? Is there anyone that didn't get that? My bad, there you go. Cool. So here is a new slide. I'm going to wing this part, not going to lie. But so I'm actually going to look at a couple of notes I had on this. So the thing that I want to talk about on this one, which is not what I talked in Stockholm, is really like installing culture into a team. If I think about A players is the pinnacle of a company that has such a fucking amazing culture that everyone else buys into it. And I don't want to ruin some of the things that I think James will talk about later on, so I won't tap into it too much. But it very much has to be that like all of that, like their goals have to fit within it, right? So when I think of like, I try to go like leaders first type approach, right? So I hadn't been in the ring for a little while on sales calls. I kind of had like too many other hats that I was wearing. But with A players, jumped on sales calls, and it was very, very, very easy for me to sell. Now, I will go ahead and say it was a fucking hard sell. It was difficult. It was really difficult because people look at it like, well, do I need connections? Shall I just spend this 8K on ads instead? Like they're looking at it in such a linear way, but that is and this is my personal belief, which is why I was able to sell it very well, is like, that's the worst thing you can do as a business owner. Like I truly believe that's the worst thing you can do as a business owner. Everyone can put 10K into ads, but like 2 years from now, are you going to be thinking about that 10K that you put into an ad campaign? Or are you going to be thinking about some of like the best hires that you made in the company because of certain connections that were facilitated for you? It's like, it's the difference between just like very linear thinking and like quantum leaping type of thinking, right? So For me, that came from like a culture thing. That came from jumping on board and seeing how deep a player's vision runs and knowing how far this is going to expand and thinking to myself, like, every call I was on, I was like, dude, like, if you don't bite the bullet on this, like, you are missing like a moving bullet train right now, because you're only going to look back like a year from now and be like, well, can I join at the old price? No, dude, you gotta go homeless to join us now because the shit's 50K, right? So I had so much conviction in this, and that's why I could sell it so easily, right? And Paul Daly talks about this, and this is what you need to be like installing into your teams, which is like find the unicorn early, right? So I had a coaching call with Paul Daly on like earlier on this week, and it reminded me some of the things that are so deeply embedded into my subconscious from working alongside him, right? And he talks about that, right? Getting inside something before the world knows what it is, right? Like the world, right? Because we're now gonna start to expand to US and really start to make like massive, massive moves. And everyone that was a part of it now gets to experience like the joy of the fact that like you were in early and you had even more proximity and growth and time within that brand, right? The things that I do, there's a couple of cool things. If you look at like, so I do all these things with my sales team, right? If you look at Tiger Woods, he's done the whole like sticky notes thing. I'm sure most of you have heard that. Like every day he had these sticky notes of like who he is, and he would anchor himself to it. I have a guy on one of my teams called Jonathan. He was really struggling with like A-type prospects basically, right? So I started like doing like a big one-to-one discussion with him about who he needs to be in those calls and the identity he needs to have and all this stuff. And we kind of came up with this like identity for him, like a shifting identity. And I made him buy like a golden nameplate with that identity name on it, which is now on his fucking desk. And he just owns that identity now. Whenever he steps onto a sales call, he looks at that golden nameplate, and that's like his closing identity. And I know it sounds like a little lame, maybe, I don't know, but like the brain is a gimmick machine, right? You gotta look at heuristics, which is like the shortcut to making something happen, right? Heuristics is like the immediate cost benefit analysis, right? So like, I don't wanna have a cold shower because it kind of sucks. But then the heuristic is like, if I have this cold shower, I'm gonna be energized for the entire day. I'm gonna demolish all of my calls. I'm gonna make more money. I'm gonna have far greater impact on everyone, yada, yada, yada. The heuristics is how we create like culture within a team, right? And you give these people all of these different anchors. Obviously we went through some of them, right? Like the Monday priming, the different things that we have as well. These are so important. And that's like the first thing that I would do. So every time I onboard a new rep, I have a one-on-one with them, and it's really not focused whatsoever around KPIs or any of that stuff. It's focused on like who they are right now, like what is important to them and who they want to become, so that we can reverse engineer that more into like an identity statement that we then create like gimmicks for them to embody as their role kind of progresses. Because there is nothing glamorous about sales. Like, especially if you're a setter and you're ripping like 400 dials a day. You got to be able to gimmick your way through it, okay? Where are we at for time?
Yeah, 2 minutes or a couple minutes.
Couple minutes, yeah, fucking let's cut out that last bit then. Yeah, I got a huge like speech thing. That little, you know the last one? Okay, yeah. Let me hit on it.
Finish it off and then we'll go into
Let's run it. Yeah. So I'm gonna pound through this one, right? Because this, and I say this whenever I run like team meetings, anything that I teach, by the way, that's me strapping a seatbelt. That's what I always say on my team meetings, like, guys, buy a seatbelt on Amazon right now and strap it into your chair. So anything that I ever teach in a team meeting should do two things, right? One, it should expand their mind and who they are and their own identity, but then it should become new reference points that they can share with their prospects to coach them through. Because I think the most powerful closers are also the most powerful coaches, because you can coach someone through the decision that's in front of them. Okay, so we're gonna try and bang through. It's gonna go like a couple minutes, but there was a study, and you'll see, I'll land the plane, right? Trust me in this, okay? So there's a woman called Carol Graham, right? She basically she's like a really like well-respected, independent like research organization that she runs. And she dove deep into like some research, which was basically for the first time in over 200 years, the mortality rates in the US, although I think this would expand outwards as well, people started dying sooner. For the first time in like 200 years, like the mortality rates went the opposite way, right? Even though we essentially have the best healthcare, right? Like all of the access to all of these advanced medical kind of progressions. And she cross-referenced all this stuff. Again, I'm trying to bang through this, but I want you to look into this. I think it's really important to think about as a leader, right? She looked into all these different like variables of it. Looked into like the really like standard stuff eventually, got onto the place where it was like more linked to how they feel about their life and their sense of where things are going, right? And basically like linked that to the hard records of when people were dying prematurely. And it landed on one single variable, which was a lack of hope for the future. So a lack of hope for the future was the number one variable that was causing people to die sooner in life, okay? Now, she defines hope as optimism combined with the belief that you have the agency to make things better. Most people think of hope and they think of like, oh, I just hope things will get better. No, hope is defined as like you have the belief with the agency to make things better, which is like the actual ability to make things better. Because when people stop having agency to that, that is when everything breaks. That's when you just give up, okay? And if you look at what is going on in the world right now, not to be Mr. Pessimistic or whatever it might be, but like, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of scary shit, there's war, there's like AI, there's all this like craziness that's happening. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty, especially if you go outside of the online world a little bit. Like the standard person is in like a lot of scarcity and fear, like a lot of standard jobs are being decimated from AI, all of that stuff. And we have that duty as leaders, and it doesn't matter what role you're in, it doesn't matter if you're a closer, a sales manager, if you're a business owner, whatever it is, we have that ability and that blessing to be that person that can be the anchor that is gonna be like the pillar despite all of the shit that's going on, right? And that's how I try and show up on every single team meeting that I run, is like being that person that like gives them, I call it like being the CEO of your own role, like ownership of their own role, where they have massive impact on anyone that they would speak to. Because we typically think so numbers heavy rather than people first in a business. And that is the number one thing that like destroys all results coming through from there. So I think we can wrap it there. That's kind of good, right? That's like a high level of it, right? But I would look into this, right? Because I could go on for that. I'd normally do like a full out, not on this, but like on a team training, I'd do like a full hour breakdown of this, like all of the metrics of it and the studies of it and things. But I think it's really, really important to anchor yourself to that and think like, what is the butterfly effect? That's like the last thing I'll leave on, right? Because we don't think about that. And I think that like sales is a high paid role and business owners and things like that because of the butterfly effect. Like if I have a one-on-one conversation with a person and I close them into A players, it feels very one-on-one transactional. But if that person then gains new connections and they then build a bigger business and then they make more hires, there's a knock-on effect from that. And then if we look at those hires, they now have friends and family that are benefiting from the fact that they've got a better role. It's such a huge fucking knock-on effect. And you have to treat every conversation that you have in business like that. Because it's like that knock-on effect goes so much deeper than we would ever even realize. So that's the importance of connections and sales teams and all of that stuff. And I'm out of here.